guys, I'm Joe, and today my series of Harry Potter reviews continues with Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. And once again, I apologize for the lateness of this review. Work has been pretty hectic lately, and other things are going on that I don't want to get too deep into. But enough of that, let's talk about the Goblet of Fire. This is directed by Mike Newell, and it's the 4th year at Hogwarts. Harry's going back to school, and the movie actually gets right into it very quickly. There's no scenes with the Dursleys, and I remember reading the book with the Dursleys, but they cut that out, and to be honest with you, I'm kind of glad that they did because I hate those people. So Harry, Hermione, and Ron and his family are going to the Quidditch World Cup near the cliffs of Dover. And they have a blast there between the Bulgarians and the Irish. But then certain things go on where a group of Death Eaters, or also known as Lord Voldemort's followers, come right in and cause a whole bunch of trouble. And they learn that it's Lord Voldemort's men when they see the sign of the skull with the snake coming out of its mouth. And once they get to school, there's 2 other groups of students that have come to visit the school this year. Durmstrang and something else, I don't know, an all-girls school from the looks of it. They're both wizarding schools, and they're here to take part in the Tri-Wizard Tournament, where 3 students, or in this case 4, as we'll talk about soon, take part in these 3 dangerous tasks to test their skills, their wit, and give them eternal glory of sorts. And Harry is chosen to be part of this tournament, despite not being old enough yet. He's 14 years old by now, but you have to be at least 17 or older to participate in this tournament. And the Goblet of Fire is something that the students who are of age put their names in the goblet, and the Goblet of Fire decides which names they will pick and who could take part in the tournament. Harry doesn't even put his name in the goblet, but it spits out his name, and unfortunately he doesn't have any other option. He has to take part in it, and as a result, the whole school is looking down on him for this, including Ron, who doesn't even speak to Harry because of this, out of jealousy. And I remember seeing this at the time and being really hurt at the fact that Ron was so bitter at Harry. I thought, oh God, this is killing me. But I'm glad that he still does care about Harry when he tries to warn him about the dragons, which is the first task of the Tri-Wizard Tournament. And it's only after the first task ends, with Harry barely surviving the attack from the dragon, that Ron and a lot of the other students realize that, yeah, you'd have to be really crazy to put your name in the Goblet of Fire, because a lot of other people want to do it. But when they see just how dangerous it is and seeing how Harry responds to the dragon trying to eat him, they go, oh, yeah, I don't think he put his name in there. And speaking of which, that sequence is intense, and that dragon, whoa, wow. And since I mentioned earlier that Ron and Harry are experiencing some differences, but they eventually make up, Harry, Ron, and Hermione are getting older, they're 14, and this movie also touches on puberty and asking your fellow student out to a certain dance, which takes place in this movie called the Yule Ball. And it has a really clever way of using it very humorously, and it really touches home with me because when I was in school, I had some similar problems asking a girl out to the dance. I tried it once or twice, didn't work out, and it was pretty nerve-wracking, to say the least. And I don't want to get too personal or anything, but it definitely hit home. And I remember talking to my parents or my grandparents about how I felt about possibly asking a girl out to school, just like Harry says, why do they have to travel in packs? And how are you supposed to get one on their own to ask them? And Ron says, Harry, you slayed dragons. If you can't get a date, who can? I think I'd rather take the dragon to the dance if you ask me. But it's not just scenes like that. It also has another scene where they're all taking this test in the Grand Hall, and it has probably my favorite thing that Snape ever does in this whole series, because while they're talking and whispering to each other over who they're going to ask out to the dance, he keeps doing this to them on the head, tell them, shut up and take your test. And after the final time, where he's just had enough, just take a look for yourself.
We've just got to grit our teeth and do it. Tonight when we get back to the common room.
I just love the way he pulls his sleeves down like that. It's so hilarious. But this movie does a really good job of touching on very real-life things amidst all the crazy wizarding stuff going on. And that's one of the reasons why this series has resonated with a lot of people, including myself. It touches on real-life issues and real-life ideas. Things that we all have gone through in life at one point or another. Friendship, family, love, and of course, puberty in this one, and asking a girl out. Like I said, it touched home with me, and I'm sure those of you who are watching, you probably experienced that at one point or another. Mostly they play the romance aspect for humor, but when the dramatic stuff starts to happen, then it feels warranted. And on to the next task. Harry and the rest of the contestants have to go into the Black Lake to save their friends who are being trapped by mer people. And since I mentioned the other contestants, Cedric Diggory, who's played by Robert Pattinson, yes, the guy from Twilight, Edward Cullen. This is the first time I noticed him as an actor, and I'm sure a lot of people did. He doesn't have a huge role in this movie, but watching this movie again, I was afraid I wasn't going to take him seriously. I think he's a fine actor, I don't hate the guy, but in this movie with what he's got to work with, I think he does a fine job. I don't mind him at all in this one. And I like how there's a mutual respect that grows between him and Harry. Harry warns Cedric and the others about the dragons. So later on, with the second task, he decides to return the favor by telling him what the second task is all about. And during that second task, Harry not only tries to save Ron, but also the sister of one of the contestants that's not even his to save. It shows you what kind of a character Harry is. He cares about other people, even if it means giving his own life. That's why we love you, Harry. That's why we love you. And something that I haven't touched upon yet, Harry is also experiencing certain visions, or a dream, of Lord Voldemort and Peter Pettigrew and somebody else, played by David Tennant, who's one of the doctors in Doctor Who. And I know for a fact that my sister will light up like the incandescent lamp whenever he shows up in something. Anyway, discussing something about Harry and doing something with him, and Harry wonders if it's foreshadowing something that's supposedly coming. And that also plays into the character of Mad-Eye Moody, played by Brendan Gleeson, who is very, very odd and funny at the same time in a way, and also has a very deep knowledge of the dark arts, which contains a scene of him teaching the dark arts class about the 3 unforgivable curses, including the Cruciatus curse, which he talks to Neville about, which unfortunately was used to kill his parents around the time that he was born. And I didn't really remember this at the time, but I was really surprised by how powerful and dark it was, that scene, where you see Neville's reaction as to everything going on within that scene. I don't know the actor's name who plays Neville, but I've always liked the guy as this character. And I like how he helps Harry with the second task of allowing himself to breathe underwater for an hour, and also how he takes the dancing very seriously. Why is it always me? And then there's the third task, running around in a maze. Are you sure there's no maze runner going on in here with Dylan O'Brien? Anyway, this sequence is very intense and very suspenseful also. Victor Crumb, who Hermione went to the dance with before, he's somehow bewitched and tries to attack the other contestants by killing them. And amidst all this, Harry and Cedric manage to survive, as well as the other contestants, but Harry and Cedric get to the trophy first. And once they touch it, it turns out to be a portkey, which was mentioned earlier in the movie. But they go to a certain place where it turns out to be the place that Harry was dreaming about, and Peter Pettigrew appears with some creature in his lap, Voldemort, who has Cedric Diggory unfortunately killed. And with certain ingredients like Tom Riddle Sr.'s bones, Peter Pettigrew's arm, and Harry Potter's blood, Wormtail, as he's called, uses it to rebuild Lord Voldemort. And Voldemort appears in his full form again, played by Ralph Fiennes, who is absolutely brilliant as this character. And I'm going to save the Voldemort yell for later, but he is very creepy and sinister and charismatic. You can't really take your eyes off the guy. He's that good at it. And if any indication, his role in Schindler's List by Steven Spielberg, he knows how to play evil. That guy's eyes could pierce your soul. And his band of Death Eaters return, which, as I hinted in my Chamber of Secrets review, one of them turns out to be Lucius Malfoy, Draco Malfoy's dad. I don't know if I said it in my review, but Harry says to Malfoy's dad, "I think you slipped the diary into Ginny Weasley's cauldron." So with this knowledge coming to light, that Malfoy's dad was a Death Eater, that tells you he had his own agenda in Chamber of Secrets trying to bring back Voldemort. Maybe it's not anything new here, but knowing the big picture now, this made the Chamber of Secrets even better. That is a humongous compliment. And then after that, a duel breaks out between Harry and Voldemort with their wands linking to each other, and the ghosts of people that fell victim to Voldemort's wand come out, such as the caretaker that we saw earlier. Cedric's soul comes out and says, "Take my body back to my father, Harry." And then Harry's parents reappear saying, "We can give you a moment to escape, but only a moment." Wow. Maybe for some people it's a little over the top, but I loved it. Harry escapes, brings Cedric's body back to the tournament, and unfortunately Cedric's father is heartbroken over the fact that he's lost his son. And Daniel Radcliffe in this scene, this whole scene in general is just really sad, and you didn't get a whole lot of screen time for this character of Cedric, but you feel the pain of not only his father, but Harry and everybody else who's witnessing this happen. And then Mad-Eye Moody takes Harry away to his office, and then we find out that he's the one who put Harry's name in the Goblet of Fire. But it's actually not Alistair Moody. It's actually Barty Crouch Jr. in disguise, the man from Harry's dream, who turns out to be the son of the head of the Triwizard Tournament, Barty Crouch Sr., who turned out to be a Death Eater years before then. And the real Alistair Moody was being locked away in a chest trying to get out. And as the movie wraps up, Dumbledore's eulogy for Cedric is really touching, and I also like the scene where he tells Harry, we must choose between what is right and what is easy, which again, touches on something that is very relevant to real life. And the final scene is very sad and depressing, but also with a slightly hopeful note to it. It's a really good hint of what's going to come in the future. You know that bad things are going to happen. As Hermione says, everything's going to change now, isn't it? If there's any problems I have with this movie, with the maze, as fun and intense as it is, the audience doesn't really get to see that happen. So, how excited would that be? And the introduction of the Death Eaters in the opening with the World Cup, it was a little abrupt. They didn't really set it up right away, so it just kind of feels like it's popped out of nowhere, almost. That's really the only problems I have with the Goblet of Fire. All in all, I really like this movie. It's not my favorite of the franchise. Azkaban was my favorite. But Goblet of Fire, I have to say, I really enjoy. So what are your guys' thoughts on the Goblet of Fire? Do you like it? You hate it? Thought it was okay? Whatever your thoughts are, comment below and tell me. And stay tuned for my review of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And I'll see you guys next time.